Antonio was born in a small countryside town in a humble family. From a young age he was determined, full of dreams, eager to build a better future. As a young man, he met Mariana, a gentle, modest seamstress. They fell in love deeply, believing their bond could overcome any hardship. Married young with barely enough to get by, they rented a small house and started their journey together. Antonio opened a little auto parts shop. Mariana worked long hours sewing for neighbors. They struggled but never wavered, always side by side, with the dream that someday things would be better. Despite the difficulties, their love was unshakable. Antonio and Mariana didn't just survive, they thrived together in a world that often didn't care about the effort they put in. Over time, their efforts paid off. The tiny shop expanded into a chain, and Antonio started investing in real estate and restaurants. By his mid-40s, he was wealthy and locally famous. People admired his work ethic and persistence, but as his fortune grew, the distance between him and Mariana did too. Antonio spent more and more time away from home, wrapped up in his business dealings. Meanwhile, Mariana remained quietly supportive, never once complaining, always encouraging him to pursue his dreams. Yet with every year that passed, she grew more distant, not because of a lack of love, but because of the absence of her husband's presence. Then came Camila. Camila was young, stunning, and filled with an energy that seemed to inject Antonio with a new sense of life. She met him at a business event where Antonio was being honored for his success. She was drawn to him, flattered him, made him feel important in ways that seemed new and exciting. Slowly, their meetings became more frequent, and what started as innocent flirtation turned into an affair. Camila was everything that Mariana no longer could be for Antonio: exciting, carefree, vibrant. She offered him an escape from the quiet loneliness that had started creeping into his life. When Mariana discovered the affair, she wasn't angry, at least not outwardly. She simply looked at Antonio with a steady gaze, her face a calm reflection of years of shared life. She said quietly, "I stood by you when we had nothing. If you want another life now, I won't hold you back." Those words cut through Antonio. He knew deep down she was right, but instead of facing his mistakes, he succumbed to the new life Camila offered, a life of glamour, luxury, and escape. He signed the divorce papers, left his home with Mariana, and married Camila in a grand ceremony. The days that followed were filled with extravagant trips, parties, and every material indulgence Antonio could afford. He believed he had finally made it, that this was the life he was meant to live. But as the years went on, Antonio began to feel a deep emptiness inside. Though surrounded by wealth and pleasure, something essential was missing. The flash of Camila's beauty, her endless excitement, couldn't fill the void left by the steady, true love he once had with Mariana. The nights grew lonelier, despite the endless social events. He missed the simple moments with Mariana, the quiet evenings spent at home, the trust and stability she had given him. But he pushed those feelings aside, too caught up in the high life he thought would bring him happiness. At first, everything seemed perfect. Camila's charm kept the illusion intact, but the cracks in Antonio's wealth began to show. He made bad investments, trusted the wrong people, and soon found himself drowning in debt. The people who had once surrounded him, friends who had come along with his success, quickly disappeared as soon as his fortune began to falter. Camila, ever the opportunist, grew more distant, spending more time with friends and less time with him. The final blow came when, one day, Camila simply packed her bags and left, walking out of his life without so much as a backward glance. Antonio was devastated. He had lost everything: his fortune, his wife, his friends. He was left with nothing but his regret and a sense of profound loneliness. He didn't turn to anyone for help. Pride kept him away from his family, and shame kept him from reaching out to old friends. One cold night, exhausted and penniless, Antonio collapsed on the street. A passerby called for an ambulance, and he was taken to a public hospital. With no money, no family to claim him, he was transferred to a care home for the elderly. It was there, among strangers, that he spent his days reflecting on his life, filled with regret for the choices he had made. He wasn't just poor, he was alone, abandoned by everyone he had once loved and trusted. He had thought wealth and success were what truly mattered, But now, lying in that cold room, he realized how mistaken he had been. The money, the fame, the parties, they were all hollow. The people who had once been by his side, the ones who truly loved him, were gone, and he was left with the painful knowledge that he had pushed them away. Then one day, as Antonio sat in his wheelchair by the window, watching the world outside go by, he heard a soft voice calling his name. He turned, and there she was, Mariana. She was older now, her hair silver, her face carrying the lines of time. But her eyes, those eyes, they were the same. She smiled, a gentle, understanding smile, and approached him. Antonio's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't seen her in years. "Mariana, what are you doing here?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. She took his hand gently, looking at him with a warmth he thought he would never feel again. "I heard about what happened, Antonio," she said softly, "and I came because I still care." Antonio couldn't hold back his tears. He had lost everything, but here she was standing before him, offering him a kind of redemption he had never expected. He had thought it was too late for forgiveness, too late to undo the damage he had done. But Mariana wasn't there for vengeance. She was there because, despite everything, she still loved him. She visited him every day after that. She brought him little comforts, books, homemade food, memories of their shared past. Slowly, Antonio began to change. He began to laugh again, to engage with the other residents, and even to help out in small ways. Mariana, ever patient, never expected anything from him. She simply gave him the gift of her presence, her love, and in doing so, she helped him find peace. Mariana didn't ask Antonio to return to the life of wealth and excess. Instead, she took him home, not to a mansion, but to a small, humble house where they could rebuild the quiet joy they had once shared. Antonio found that, without the pressure of money, without the distractions of his past life, he could focus on what really mattered. And with Mariana by his side, he began to understand that love and companionship were the real treasures in life. In his final months, Antonio reflected on his life. He realized that success was never about wealth or status. It was about the people who stood by you through thick and thin, the ones who loved you even when you had nothing. Mariana, who had always been there, was his true fortune, not the businesses, the cars, or the fame he had once chased so relentlessly. Antonio passed away quietly, in his sleep, with Mariana at his side, holding his hand. There were no headlines, no public outpourings of grief, but in that simple, peaceful moment, Antonio understood that true success isn't measured by what you have, but by who you've loved and who has loved you in return. This story reminds us that in the end, we take nothing with us but the love we've given and received. It's not wealth, fame, or popularity that leaves a lasting legacy. It is the people who love us when we're at our lowest, the ones who never leave, no matter what. So cherish those who have loved you through everything, for they are the ones who truly matter.